Hello and welcome to another Demon 212 Dreamcast review. Today I'm going to be taking a look at Sonic Adventure 2, which if you've never played it before, it's a 3D platformer. It's one of those, anyone who knows me knows that I've never praised 3D Sonic games, but if you saw my Sonic Adventure 1 review that is, you'll have noticed this year that I've been told to try the Dreamcast originals because they're a hell of a lot better than the new ports, especially the HD ones on. They've just been released on the PSN Live and Steam, I believe it is. So I thought, seeing as I had a Dreamcast, I'd give it a go. And if I'm honest, it's a lot better, but it's still not a game that I can particularly praise much of. I suppose I'll get into that in a little bit. At the start, you've simply got one player. If you've got another padding, you can play two-player. Which the two-player versus options, you can do chow racing or you can do action races. Like it says action, but basically it's almost like a lazy way of not putting in 4 options on that menu to instead then incorporate it on this one. But that's probably also to make it easier so you can just choose all these instead of having to keep exiting out. You've got races where you play as the 2 racing characters, Sonic and Shadow. You've got shooting where you play as the 2 shooting characters, Miles, Tails, Prower, and Dr. Eggman Robotnik or Robotnik Eggman. I can never remember which is his first name and which is his last name. I know it was because of these games that he was even called Eggman, and I absolutely hate it. And then you've got the hunting stages where you can play as Rouge or Knuckles, and you can obviously random. You can also choose your stage, so you can go through and there's different ones for different occasions. Racing is pretty simple, it's whoever gets to the end first. Hunting is pretty simple, it's whoever finds the objects first. And shooting is simple, it's whoever wins by kicking the crap out of the other person. That's probably the more fun out of the 3, simply because, well, I've never really enjoyed racing on Sonic games, like getting from A to B, and I've never really enjoyed the hunting sections of this game because I think it's the bastardized compared to the first game. I think they were really badly done in this one, and it's part of why I'm not too keen on the game, because if they just kept them the same as on the first one, I'd have a lot more to rave about. Options wise, before going to the actual gameplay though, you can listen to the BGM, you can change your files around, you can change jump pack options, you can change the screen theme, just that's it really. It's basic options, but I suppose it's everything that you need. So anyway, when you go into one player, you can go into story mode, stage select or kart race. I think there is a way to unlock a 2-player kart race by beating a certain thing, but the kart races are actually terrible. I can't stand them. They've got very, very bad handling. I just wasn't a fan of them at all. It's one of those, I might be thinking that it's the GameCube version where you got 2-player version of this, because I know the GameCube added chow battles as well. It added quite a bit of stuff. And it was the first way I'd really played Sonic 2, because when my brother got a Dreamcast, I had to test it for him, and I played this for about 20 minutes just to make sure everything was all working and that, because it was a Christmas box and no one wanted to be disappointed on Christmas morning. And after doing the first Tails mission, I honestly thought, oh my god, what have they done to Sonic? It was the first time I'd ever played Sonic in 3D. So it's one of those that years later when it was released for the Dreamcast, I thought I should at least try it out because everyone raves about it. I know my little brother didn't get into it, he still hasn't got into it, but then again, he was too young, I think, to start gaming. It's just one of those things. Not everyone can game from the age of 2, and not everyone has games like Combat School and Green Beret and other such ZX Spectrum classics to play. But it's one of those. I always wanted to try it, and when I got the GameCube version I hated it because there were a lot of problems, and that's why I was told to get the Dreamcast version, and a lot of the problems are fixed with it. So one of them is the homing attack, which rather than talk about it on the kart racing section, I'm now actually going to cut into playing as Sonic, and I'll mention it in there. Basically, in the GameCube version, Sonic's homing attack used to automatically go off pretty much the moment you hit the jump button. It's supposed to be you double tap jump and you'll do it. And that indeed is true for the Dreamcast version. It works, and it therefore makes his levels a hell of a lot better, and I can actually appreciate them. But it used to do it with Knuckles as well, with his glide ability. It just seemed to be an inert flaw that every now and then the game would totally screw you over, and you would perform these things that you're supposed to double tap to do, and instead it would do it on the first tap, and it meant so many times I would get killed, lose my last life, and have to restart a level all over again, which on the Sonic levels it wasn't that bad because they're not usually that long. On the Knuckles levels, they can sometimes take you half an hour because of how they've done them on this one, and it was just something that by the end of the game I absolutely hated it and never wanted to play it again. With the Dreamcast version, that's not a problem. I've never once had the double jump happen to me when I haven't... Sorry, when I've only pushed the button once. So I've never had the homing attack just randomly kill me. I've never had the glide just randomly kill me. So it meant I could have a lot more fun with this title, and it meant I could actually appreciate Sonic and Shadow's levels. Because, speaking of appreciate, that's something else I suppose, that my brother's appreciating that he's doing this one rather than the first Sonic game again, because whereas I've shown off all 6 characters on the first review, I won't really need to do it with this one. I won't need to do loads of cuts because there's only 3 types of gameplay. And it means that basically there's a third of the main campaign that I absolutely love, which are the Sonic and Shadow levels. They work great, they play really well. The camera can get a little frustrating at times, and you can end up leaping off to death, but as long as you take your patience with those sections, then they're few and far between. Unfortunately though, there's not just Sonic and Shadow levels. If there was, then I'd be giving this a glowing review and saying it's one of the best games I've ever played, because I do actually really like these levels. Unfortunately though, there are another 2 types of levels, which I'm going to cut into one of those right about now. Basically, it's shooting style levels. It's what I've already mentioned with the multiplayer, and it's, if you'd never played the first one then you wouldn't recognise it, but if you did then you'll know them is, and I hope I get the code right. I did in the first review and I'll probably mess it up here, E1029 or something. I hope that it's that. Quite frankly, I may have just actually mentioned the robot from Robocop or something for all I know of. And it's just one of those things. They worked okay in Sonic Adventure 1, but not okay enough to have them to be 2 huge parts of the entire game's campaign. These are the Eggman levels and these are the Tails levels, and they work really poorly because the camera is just awful. You can move it with the triggers, however as soon as you move, the camera will move. So if you're in a tight area trying to set it up and you think you've set the aim just right, as soon as you touch it, the camera's going to swing around and you're back to a blind alley. And it's really annoying. It's one of those things that they just don't work very well at all. It's the amount of times you accidentally get killed just by either trying to set a shot up, because you can't just stand still and aim, which is another big problem. You always move the moment you touch anything, so if you're just trying to aim up an enemy that's slightly to your left before he shoots you and kills you, maybe you don't have any rings left. For those who don't know, it is a Sonic game and the whole point is you need rings to stay alive. However, with Tails it's a bit different because you've got an energy bar at the bottom, and rings get you more energy and that, and also getting shot takes away that energy bar. So maybe you don't have any rings, maybe you don't have any energy, and maybe you're just trying to desperately set up a shot to stay alive before the enemy kills you, and instead you do a slight nudge, you accidentally walk off an edge, that's it, you're dead, you've lost a life, you have to start level again if you hit continue, because it could have been your last life. It's annoyances like that that make these levels really badly done, because the amount of times you will accidentally fail through no fault of your own just because you're trying to set the right shot up, the shot that the game needs you or wants you to make, or set the right jump up to go to the right area, and it's just so annoying that they didn't spend a little more time on it and just didn't allow a bit of a free camera in it. A free camera would have actually fixed these levels probably, at least like a good 90% of the levels I'd say, and the ability to stand and aim, so that kind of like a Contra game, where on Contra you could always run and shoot, or you could hold down a button, at least on the later ones to be fair, hold down a button to stand stationary to then shoot in whatever direction you want. Things like that would have just fixed these levels and made them really good fun. Instead they're a bit of a chore, a bit of a grind, and they don't well, really cause you to get rather angry and want to throw controllers about near the end. But I've mentioned 2 types of the gameplay now. On to the final one, which are the Knuckles and Rouge levels. So, for those who don't know, the Knuckles levels were levels that I actually really enjoyed on the first game. The whole point is, you've got to find pieces of either keys or gems or things like that around the level, and you've got a signal meter at the bottom, and it tells you when you're close to one of them. And they worked great, they were really good. On the Dreamcast version of the second one, and I'm pretty sure on the second one period, so on the GameCube as well, if memory serves, you can only find the first gem at the first time, the second gem at the second time, and the third gem at the third time. It no longer tells you if you're close to them unless you've found the one before it. So for example, say you're on a huge level like the infamous Pumpkin Hill, which I'm on now, and say you are actually standing, I mean, it could be for all I know, and I know it's not, but it could be for all I know behind this, the third gem, because I haven't found the first two. It's not going to tell me. So I have to fly around, find the first one, and then I have to basically retrace every single section of the level 3 times in order to find all gems. Whereas on the first game, it would tell you if you were near one, regardless of if you were up to it or not. It made them much more fluid. It made them much... I suppose made them easier, but it actually made them bearable to play, because it's the type of thing that you don't want to be covering a huge level 3 times over. It's why sometimes you can take 20-30 minutes just on a single Knuckles level, because you might have been standing right next to the gem that you now turns out you actually is the only one left that you need, and because the system didn't tell you about it, you now have to scour all of the level all over again. It is really badly done. Not to mention, the camera is so awkward, and this is what I mean by setting it up, and you'll set things up and the moment you move, the camera moves, and it's even worse on these levels than it is on the on the Tails and Eggman levels, and the music is just atrocious. It's like really, really, really awful rap, and there's probably people out there who are thinking all rap is awful rap, but no, trust me, all rap is not awful rap. There are actually some incredibly talented rappers out there. Unfortunately, none of them work on this game. It's just absolutely atrocious, and after you've listened to it on repeat for 30-35 minutes of a level, it's the type of thing that's almost soul-sapping. You get to the point where you just think, I'd rather hit myself repeatedly in the face than play this level for another 2 minutes to find something. It's the type of thing that, honestly, if you're going to play through the game, you're going to want a guide, because you're going to want to literally just go from A to B as fast as you can to get all the 3 gems. At least if you could find the third gem first and the second gem, you know, that somewhere else, at least if it was like the first game, then it would work really well, because you'd only have to cover the level once. You'd barely spend any time on them. And it's one of those, I honestly, when I used to play these levels, think that it was just me back on the GameCube days, and now I've found out just how many people absolutely hate them, and just the reason why, because they were so good in the first game. I've put me times up, and I know they're different levels obviously, but I've put me times up of the first game and the second game side by side, and on the first game I never really spent more than 5 minutes in a single one of the Knuckles levels, whereas on this one I've never managed to beat a level yet in under 20 minutes. It's just madness. It really is. They ruin the experience. It gets to the point that, as I say, there's only one type of level, the Sonic and Shadow levels on the entire game that I actually enjoy playing, and that's just not good enough for a game that got absolutely stellar ratings from everyone saying it was a masterpiece. I really don't see how you can call this a masterpiece. I think you can call it partly a masterpiece, but it would be like cutting a painting in half and, well, half of it would be a Picasso and the other half of it would be something that a 3-year-old drew. And don't get me wrong, there are some talented 3-year-olds out there, but I don't know any 3-year-old who manages to sell his paintings for hundreds of thousands of pounds or dollars or whatever currency you are currently using. It's just one of those things that this game is very similar in that respect, that you've got such genius in certain ways and then madness, sheer complete and utter madness in other ways, that it ruins the game for me. It's the type of thing that I know I'm going to get absolutely slated for doing this review from the die-hard Sonic fanboys, but quite frankly, Sonic and Shadow aren't the people I have the problem with. So, what else can I actually say about the game? Well, musically, I've already said I absolutely hate the rap tracks on it. Unfortunately, I pretty much hate the pop tracks as well. They're really... I don't think there's a single music track on the entire game that I actually like. Gameplay-wise, some of it's great, some of it's poor. I've already mentioned that, at least in my own opinion. There is an awful lot to do, so if you actually enjoy all of the mission types and find them your liking, then you're at least going to have a hell of a lot of gameplay to actually play, because there's tons of missions, there's tons of nice little things to do. The Chow Garden is in the game the same as it was in the first one, and I used to on the GameCube spend hours on the Chow Garden, but then I kind of fell out of it because it is very much like a Tamagotchi. It's something that's great for a while, but then you kind of get a little bored with it. It's one of those that there's probably some people out there who absolutely love the Chow Garden and find it very relaxing and still play it today, but I'm personally not one of those. Graphically, the game is fantastic for a Dreamcast game. I don't know if I've already said that yet, but it is one of those things that kind of needs to be said more than once because it is a great looking game. I was very impressed with it when I first put this on, as I say, a test for my brother's Dreamcast because I'd never saw anything like it, and I thought, well, yeah, this looks really good. I mean, graphically wise, it just looks absolutely amazing, but I still don't understand why Tails is in a mech, and to this day, I still don't understand why Tails is in a mech. So there's nothing much else I can really say about the game. I suppose all I can say is you might have noticed I've been putting a few Dreamcast vids up. It's because I'm getting ready to do the likes of Stormwind, Neo XYX, which comes out in a couple months after Stormwind, and then there's a hell of a lot of games actually coming out for the Dreamcast this year, and I really can't wait for them. So there we go then. That's been the review. I hope you found it helpful. I don't score the games because that's based purely on opinion, so instead I'll leave you to make your own mind up. So thanks for watching, and if you've got any questions about the game that I didn't answer in the vid or that hasn't been answered in the comments, then feel free to ask and I'll help if I can. Also, if you did find it helpful, don't forget to check out my channel because there's plenty more like this up there, and don't forget to subscribe because there'll be plenty more to come as well. So until next time, this has been Demon212, signing off.